Good day, mathletes! Welcome to another day of magnificent, math-exciting, and magical experience in learning mathematics here on TV Eskwela with Miss Christine Joy Duran Liquit of Montevista National High School, Montevista District. Are you ready? Be sure that you are holding your Module 2A for the third quarter, as well as your pen and paper for taking down notes. So listen attentively to follow my discussion. For today, we will be learning another wonders of geometry that are present everywhere, in nature and in structures. Let us begin by having a quick review of your previous lesson to activate your prior knowledge. Unscramble the jumbled letters. Rearrange the jumbled letters to form the correct word or term being described in the given statement. So listen carefully. Number 1. It is the union of two rays that meet at a common endpoint. Again, it is the union of two rays that meet at a common endpoint. The correct word is angle. Great! For number 2, when an angle holds the same relative position as another angle somewhere else in the figure are said to be what pair of angles? Again, when an angle holds the same relative position as another angle somewhere else in the figure are said to be what pair of angles? The correct word is corresponding. Very good. They are corresponding angles, the same thing as for corresponding sides. Number 3. It refers to two adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. Again, it refers to two adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. The correct word is vertical. Excellent. It refers to vertical angles. Number 4. In geometry, it is the longest side of a right-angled triangle, the side opposite the right angle. Again, in geometry, it is the longest side of a right-angled triangle, the side opposite to the right angle. The correct word is hypotenuse. Nice job! The length of the hypotenuse can be found using the Pythagorean theorem, which states that the square of the length of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the length of the other two sides. Number 5. It refers to a triangle that has two sides of equal length. Again, it refers to a triangle that has two sides of equal length. The correct word is isosceles. Excellent. Sometimes, it is specified as having exactly two sides of equal length, and sometimes as having at least two sides of equal length. The latter version thus including the equilateral triangle as a special case. Last number 6. In geometry, when two figures or objects have the same shape and size, they are said to be. In geometry, when two figures or objects have the same shape and size, they are said to be. The correct answer is congruent. Good job! Or if one has the same shape and size as the mirror image of the other. Well, I think everything is clear now. Keep on remembering those terms as we proceed to the next lesson. Let's try this next activity. Picture analysis. Look and observe all the images on the screen. What do you think? Let me ask this first. What is your ambition in life? I believe that everyone has. Ambition is necessary to give a point and direction to life. Going back to the pictures, how will you relate the picture to your ambition? If you will become an architect or an engineer, what is your dream project? What can you say about the long bridge in the picture? How about the tall buildings? Why triangles are there in the structures? Are the triangles congruent? When can we say that two triangles are congruent? Why are bridges and buildings stable? Yes, because of these triangles. Triangles are used in bridges because they are evenly distribute weight without changing their proportions. When force is applied on a shape like a rectangle, it would flatten out. It has three sides, and if these are fixed in length, there is only one configuration they can be in. Without changing any of the lengths of the sides, the shape can be skewed or squashed or deformed. Triangles help keep structures rigid. That's how congruent triangles exist in real life. And yes, now you gave your initial ideas on congruent triangles. Let's proceed to our new lesson, illustrating triangle congruence. For today's lesson, let us be guided by our objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learners are expected to: Number 1. Identify the congruent parts of two triangles. Number 2. Illustrate triangle congruence. And number 3. Determine the importance of the existence of congruent triangle in real world. Let's try our third activity, tangram puzzle. All you need to do is to place the numbered tangram pieces to complete the puzzle. Make sure that it will not overlap. You can draw the puzzle board in your notebook, the square one on the screen, and just put labels or the corresponding numbers which you think that will fit on the puzzle. Let's try answering this one even we're just listening and watching at home. Let's start with number 1. How about number 2? Number 3. Number 4. Let's go on number 5. And number 6. Good job! Now, what do you think is the main idea of this activity? What is on this activity and how did we solve it? How did we complete the puzzle? Now let's put into details on what you did. The player, which is you, searches a tangram piece that is exactly similar to the space on the tangram board, or that is congruent to it. So now, what do you mean by congruence? Congruence means having the same shape and size. Two triangles are congruent when they have exactly the same measurement of the corresponding sides and exactly the same measurement of the corresponding angles. Now look at the two triangles on the screen. We can say that these two triangles are congruent. In triangle congruence, you have to remember these symbols and what it stands for. It is read as triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Remember to name the triangles according to their vertices. A, B, and C for the first triangle, and D, E, and F for the second triangle. Another. Remember the symbol for congruency and the symbol for triangle. Trivia. For the symbol of congruency, the tilde, which is the top part of the symbol, is a sign for similarity and indicates the same shape. The bottom part of the symbol, which is the equal sign, is the sign of equality and indicates the same size. A triangle has 3 sides, 3 vertices, and 3 angles. So we must consider all of this. Corresponding sides are marked the same, and same goes with corresponding angles, as you can see on the screen. Whenever we flip one of the triangles, its corresponding sides, vertices, and angles do not interchange. Look at the two triangles. The pairs of corresponding sides are namely line segment AB and line segment DE. Thus, segment AB is congruent to line segment DE. Line segment AC corresponds to line segment DF. Thus, line segment AC is congruent to line segment DF. Line segment BC corresponds to line segment EF. Thus, line segment BC is congruent to line segment EF. Continue observing the two triangles as well as the markings. The pairs of corresponding angles are namely: angle A corresponds to angle D. Thus, angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B corresponds to angle E. Thus, angle B is congruent to angle E. Angle C corresponds to angle F. Thus, angle C is congruent to angle F. Congruent triangles are named by listing their vertices in corresponding orders. Since all the statements are true, the corresponding sides and angles are congruent. Thus, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. So, it must be in order. So that's how we defined and determine triangle congruence through its corresponding sides and angles. This time, let's do the vice versa. Given the congruence statement, you will be the one to illustrate the congruent triangles. This activity is on page 5 of your module. Our fourth activity is illustrating triangle congruence. Illustrate triangle TNX is congruent to triangle HOP. Put markings, like the examples earlier, to indicate the congruent corresponding sides and angles. Put your drawing in your notebook and write down the pairs of corresponding congruent sides and angles. While doing the activity, please do remember that corresponding sides are marked the same, and the same goes with the corresponding angles, as you can see on the figures earlier. So please be careful in marking the sides and angles to prove their congruency. Congruent triangles are named by listing their vertices in corresponding orders. So please do mind the order of our given vertices, because in naming two congruent triangles, there must be a proper correspondence on the vertices. In simple terms, matching on the vertices must be followed. So don't be confused, okay? And now, I think that you're done already. Let's check your work. Please do compare the illustrations. It's still okay that the triangles are not the same as mine in regards to the positioning as well as the sizes. As long as the markings of your first triangle corresponds to the markings of your second triangle. So don't be confused. This time, let's check on what you've listed for your corresponding sides and angles. Kindly check your work based on the table. The pairs of corresponding sides are namely, line segment TN is congruent to line segment HO. Note, line segment HO is congruent to line segment TN is acceptable based on the reflexive property of congruence. If each endpoints interchange, like TN to NT, it's still okay as long as you interchange HO to OH on the second triangle. I hope that I made it clear. Next, line segment NX is congruent to line segment OP. Line segment XT is congruent to line segment PH. The pairs of corresponding angles are namely, angle T is congruent to angle H. Angle N is congruent to angle O. Angle X is congruent to angle P. For the angles, if you wrote angle H is congruent to angle T, then the congruent statement is still acceptable based on the reflexive property of congruency. So I think that everything is clear now. This time, let us try to assess what you have learned from our lesson for today. Complete the congruent statement. Again, please do mind the order of our given vertices because in naming two congruent triangles, there must be a proper correspondence on the vertices. Starting with number 1. Triangle MAN is congruent to, again, triangle MAN is congruent to, please name the triangle and list the vertices in corresponding order. Triangle MAN is congruent to triangle DEN. Very good. Number 2. Triangle LAN is congruent to, again, triangle LAN is congruent to, please name the triangle and list the vertices in corresponding order. Triangle LAN is congruent to triangle LEI. Nice one. Number 3. Triangle RED is congruent to, again, triangle RED is congruent to, please name the triangle and list vertices in corresponding order. Triangle RED is congruent to triangle DGR. Good job! If you can observe, it started from the double markings going to the single markings. That's why it's DGR correspondingly. Last number, number 4. Triangle RKI is congruent to, again, triangle RKI is congruent to? Please name the triangle and list the vertices in corresponding order. Triangle RKI is congruent to triangle CYI. Well, perfectly done. Is everything clear now? Nice to hear. So that's how we identify, prove, and illustrate that two triangles are congruent. As for now, we will end up our discussion here. I hope that you learned a lot. Kindly answer the task given to you by your subject teachers. That would be all for today. Goodbye and have a nice day, mathletes. Make TV Eskwela a weekday educational habit to help you in understanding the module content. Remember this, class. As what Paul Wong said, congruence between what you say and what you do is the key of authentic happiness. Again, this is Miss Christine Joy Duran Liquit from Montevista National High School, Montevista District, your math teacher for today. Well, see you into our next episode of Magnificent, Math-Exciting, and Magical Experience in Learning Mathematics. Dahil dito sa TV Eskwela, sa pag-aaral, sama-sama. Bye-bye!